Good evening, my name is Jorge. I'm a person who has pancreatic cancer. Thanks to you and the visualization of the content partners on YouTube, I was given expectations of life. The first thing that came to my mind is that the youth, thanks to your words, have a legacy. I am happy and you have given me strength. There is eternal life. Thank you, Doctor.
Good afternoon. First of all, congratulations on the presentation. Second, I wanted to ask you the short question. By the exposition that you have made of the superconsciousness, I wanted to ask if there could be some kind of relationship with a kind of reincarnation of that superconsciousness in another body. Thank you.
You have touched on a very interesting subject, which is reincarnation. Reincarnation, Greece accepted it. It was accepted in the Roman Empire for a while, until Constantine, who then established as dogma that it was not accepted. And in Christianity, it is not accepted. The resurrection at the end of time is accepted. Reincarnation means death. And then our superconsciousness is introduced in another body. That is to say, it is birth, life, death, birth, life, death. It is the cycle, the wheel samsara. Logically, this is the fundamental principle of Eastern philosophies. To an important Christian, I do not know if you have heard of Teilhard de Chardin. Teilhard de Chardin, a Jesuit who studied the evolution of the human being in a three-dimensional situation. He said that the human being starts at the alpha point full of impurities and has to reach the omega point, where I have eliminated all the impurities, sanctity, Buddhahood, enlightenment, and in this path we are eliminating the impurities. In one life it is not possible. In one life it is not possible. So from the Christian point of view, as a dogma, it is not accepted. From the scientific point of view, is it accepted? Yes. Yes, it is accepted. And there is objective evidence. Take the works of Brian Weiss, psychiatrist, the works of Jan Stevenson, psychiatrist. They have done exhaustive studies. Work with hypnosis that can reach retrograde situations. For example, Jan Stevenson explains cases so curious that it is the only explanation of reincarnation. This is more frequent in children who put themselves in evidence because they are not materialized. Children who get the mania to go to a country they have never been. And they go there and they say to them, here was a palace, here was this, and they say, this guy is crazy. They go to the town hall, they look at it, and 200 years ago, there was this, and this, and then they abruptly start speaking the language of the country which they had never studied. There are stigmas of people who have died in a certain way and have physical stigmata of the death they had. There are people who have phobias that nobody can explain. For example, aviators, a tremendous phobia has been seen. Aviators, a phobia of flying because they died in a traffic accident. And with this, with hypnosis, psychiatrists come to this life, and then it is the way to solve these phobias and these problems. That is to say that medically there is quite certain evidence that reincarnation exists. Now we have to accept that in the Christian milieu reincarnation is not accepted. They accept the resurrection at the end of time. But personally I believe it exists.
I want to thank you for all the explanation you have given us. And my question is, how long did it take you in meditation to connect with your supraconsciousness?
That is a good question. Look, I did a 1,500-hour course. 1,500 hours. A course led by a super expert person, a person who even unfolds. 1,500 hours. And the most I get is sometimes, not always, to contact my supraconsciousness, which I tell you is wonderful. One has a sensation of openness, of amplitude, And it gives you the capacity. You pass in front of a rose, and the one who moves puts the ego. A rose passes, and it has passed. You look at a rose, a bird, a tree, a similar, with your supraconsciousness, and you see the essence, and you realize that it is marvelous. It is a wonder of the universe. It is what I told you before. With supraconsciousness, you can become tremendously happy. Tremendously happy. Tremendously free. It is discovering the essence. The essence that is the expression of the first consciousness in everything in the universe. This is what allows us. It costs a lot, but it is wonderful. The result, I recommend it to you.
Hello, well, thank you very much for the round of questions. I wanted to ask you, well, I have assumed that you do these talks to eliminate a little bit of ignorance. And I wanted to ask you, what do you think would happen if collectively mankind would stop being so ignorant? What do you think would happen if mankind would evolve, and what would be the consequences? Thank you.
It would be wonderful. It would be heaven. Would we have heaven here? What the sick people tell us, and when they reach the situation of near-death experience and contact the astral life, is pure love. It is pure kindness, it is altruism, it is beauty, it is simplicity. It would be a wonderful world, it would be heaven here on earth. Imagine if there were no selfishness, no envy, no hatred. It would be a true marvel to live like that. This is the purpose of our existence, to discover our being, which is our supraconsciousness. This is our true happiness. It will give us tremendous happiness when we discover it. This is the purpose of humanity. I wish it would come. And I promise you that my ultimate joy, we receive a tremendous amount of messages from people who watch the videos, the YouTubes. And I assure you that the most joy that I get from these messages is when a person says to me, "You don't know what you have helped me. You don't know." Even, look what I'm going to tell you, that I almost got tears in my eyes. One who wanted to commit suicide and did not commit suicide. And he thanked me. You know, sadly, at the College of Physicians, I am on the board of the College of Physicians. We have made a study of mortality in Catalonia, It is a country of very good survival. The female sex, the average is of 85 years. In the female, and in the male, 83. The main causes of mortality are vascular accidents, cerebral and cardiac infarctions, then cancer, and then trauma. Trauma and cancer are very close nowadays. What saddened us tremendously, the main cause of mortality in Catalonia between the ages of 15 and 35, suicide. Suicide is the ego. How have we educated our children with this ego? Where are the values? Where is the supraconsciousness? Which is the one that discovers this beauty, the essence of things? They are so far from this truth. We must discover this truth.
Doctor, thank you for educating us. One question I have is, well, why couldn't you explain psychiatric disorders from this view? Since my patients, what I see is that they have a lot of intuition, a lot of empathy, a lot of creativity, all the abilities that define supraconsciousness. So why couldn't it be explained from this perspective? Thank you.
I appreciate the question. Look, Bruce Grayson, he's a professor of psychiatry at the University of Virginia in the United States. He is one of the most experienced men about experiences, more knowledge about near-death experiences. He defines them in a wonderful way. I like the definition very much. He says, it is a subjective, deep experience with a transcendent component which occurs in people in a near-death situation and which transcends space, time, and ego.
And the
Do
ego.
you know what this man says? That psychiatric institutions have many patients who have had near-death experiences, who have had near-death experiences and are not understood. You see people with intuition. You see people who are manifesting their supraconsciousness and are interpreted. I have told you that there are patients who have been treated and diagnosed as psychiatric, and they have received psychiatric treatment for counting, trying to experience in a human, their near-death experience in a human way. Bush, an American, did a study on the dynamics of patients who had had a near-death experience, those who were married, and do you know what he saw? 75% of them divorced. Do you know why? Because it changed the way they thought about the dynamics of one, the one who had the experience, and the other one said, hey, but this is not my partner. I mean, I agree with you that there's a lot of psychiatrically ill that's not psychiatrically ill, that's misunderstood and misdiagnosed. These are the words of Bruce Grayson, a professor of psychiatry, one of the most experienced in NDE experiences. I agree with you.
Good afternoon, Dr. Sans up here. Thank you very much for the talk. I wanted to comment, I don't know if you know the work being done by Dr. Andrew Gallimore in Tokyo or the work done in the 90s by Rick Strassman in the United States. They deal with dimethyltryptamine to also access different states of consciousness. They talk about this supraconsciousness with other words. And my question to you was whether you adhere to any particular theory of consciousness and whether you advocate a fundamentalism in consciousness. Thank you very much.
It is true that certain drugs, N-dimethyl hydroxytryptamine, for example, similar to the 5-hydroxytryptamine family, which is serotonin, are substances that can cause hallucinations. Also in ancient villages, and still today, there are certain psychedelic substances, especially those derived from lysergic acid, which can cause hallucinations. It is true that there are certain substances that determine in the patients a situation of opening. That is to say, as of detachment from their body and opening to another dimension, which to a certain extent we could compare it to what patients with near-death experiences report. Now, the complete description of these situations with these psychedelic substances is by no means the typical clinic, evolution, and clinic of the near-death experience. That there is a consciousness, as we have said, local, neuronal, proper to neuronal activity, which depends very much entirely on the character of the person. This is a reality. Here I like very much then Aristotle's expression. Note well, Aristotle. We have already said that this consciousness of ours depends very much on the character of the person. And Aristotle lived in the 17th BC. Aristotle, a disciple of Plato. And he said the following, think about this sentence. He says, behavior conditions action. Action determines behavior. Repeated behavior creates habit. Habit structures character, and character marks destiny. In other words, that our local consciousness is the total expression of our character, of our characterological structuring, which determines our thinking and our affective state. But our non-local consciousness is a consciousness which is holistic with the first consciousness, which is totally different. It is a dynamic of purity, of beauty, of love, of authenticity, of justice. That is to say, it is a consciousness that, let's say, the well-educated local consciousness can be the same, but the one we see today has absolutely nothing to do with this supraconsciousness. They are two totally different consciousnesses. I call one the authentic I and the other the not I. I do not know if I have answered your question absolutely or totally, but what I have interpreted in your question is this.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for your work. The truth is that I think it is useful for me and for many people. I could say in part that I admire you as well. And that's why I want to ask you this question. I have thousands of them. I know quite a bit about a lot of what you have talked about, and I share it. But my question is, are you? Even at certain times, do you fear death? And how do you combat it? Thank you.
You are absolutely right. And there are times when I'm afraid of death, but I assure you it's a different fear than before. I'm afraid of suffering. Look, we are afraid of death because of four things. We are afraid of death because the passage from life to death is painful, annoying, of great loneliness. In my professional life, I have operated on many cancers. Sadly, I cannot always cure them and transplants. I have seen many people die. For example, you have seen a relative or a friend, for example, with esophageal cancer, the ones I operate on, or pancreatic cancer. You see how they suffer, they cannot swallow, they get thinner, pain. In the end, they are left with skin and bone, they die. And at the end, what does the family say? Poor thing, now rest. I'm afraid of this, of suffering, but I am not afraid of what will happen. That is to say, the causes of the fear of death are first, the passing, the suffering. Secondly, ignorance, which is the most powerful. We are afraid because we do not know what happens. This is the big problem. I compare it, you take a little boy, you take him by the hand, you take him to a place, you open the door, and there is a black room. You say to him, I don't know what is happening. And there is a black room, you say, come in, child. What will the child say? It will stick to you. I don't see what's in here, I don't know. I'm scared to death. That's what happens to us with death. We don't know what happens after death. The third aspect that conditions fear is that we leave everything behind. Family, friends, money. The barbarities we have done in life to have power, dominion. We come with nothing and we leave with nothing. The material is a means, not an end as the ego creates for us. And the fourth motive, that is that we have a tremendously powerful instinct of self-preservation that fixes us to life. Therefore, I am afraid of suffering at this pace. But today we have wonderful palliative means. Well, I am the first one who, when I see my patients in the ward who are already in an irreversible bad situation, I convince the family, let us sedate this patient. I put him on a lytic cocktail, tolantines, phenergans, neurine textures. There are many things. I put him on everything. Then you tranquilize this patient, you take away his anxiety, pain, fear, and you favor the transit. But what will come later? I have lost this fear, that of the material environment. I no longer have it. I like to have what I need to be able to offer it to my family and to have the minimum, a roof over my head, to be able to eat. But you give me a Ferrari and I give it back to you. I am not interested in having a Ferrari, I assure you. It's a pit of problems. I don't want it. I need a little car that will do the job, but I don't want anything else. That is to say, when one loses one's ignorance and knows one's existential reality, the most important is the fear of the unknown. It is the fear that the ego tells us that death leads to disappearance. So we must lose this fear by fighting against ignorance.
Hello, Dr. Sans. I'm going to ask your permission rather than ask a question, what you said before. Let's not tell stories here, but I have been wanting an answer to something that happened for many years, and I wanted to take advantage of it. If you don't mind that it might take 3 minutes, I will pass the floor to someone else. I'll pass the floor to someone else. If not, I'll share it. Now, I am a psychologist. I was trained at the Los Angeles Cancer Institute, and I was educating or re-educating the electrical activity of cancer patients because it is known that a brain at 3 hertz boosts immunity. So I wanted to practice relaxation using neurofeedback and biofeedback, and so it took me not 1,500, but it took me about 5 or 6 months to learn to relax, and from there I entered meditation and became addicted. But then something happened that nobody has been able to give me an answer, and when I tell them about it, the first thing they ask me is if I smoke something. I came home from Tecnon, from the doctor's office. Maybe you know my sister Juana Barte, who worked at Belviche, a cardiologist who died of COVID.
Yes.
And I could not tell this to Juana because she told me that you are terrible at psychology, you have lost your mind, you changed medicine for psychology, and you lost your mind. But well, in one of these meditations, I became totally addicted. I would come home and I would throw the carpet in Zen imposition and nothing. Well, I tell it for the first time, I don't know, it's because everything disappeared, I became light. How do you explain this? I don't know how to explain it. Everything became fire. I don't know how to explain it, and I don't want them to tell me if you smoked or if it's a hallucination. But to live with this, notice that the word even trembles when I speak it, because I don't know how to explain it. But I melted in an ocean of light. I don't know how long it lasted. And from that day on, I thought, the universe is mental, because there was consciousness. I have eliminated that. That is, I have zero fear of dying. I believe that service is the most important thing, but many things are not. Most important thing, but many things I have not overcome. So I still have ego and everything you want. But that experience, how can I explain it? Because I think sometimes I say it has been given to me and I don't know what to do with it. And I think I am turning my back on it from the scientific point of view, in techno, in oncology, biofeedback, and not daring to talk about it as you do here in front of me. Thank you. I don't mean this as applause, but thank you.
You saw a lot of light.
I melted in light. I did not see it. I melted in an ocean of light. It wasn't a vision. They say you had your eyes open. No, I didn't. All of a sudden, it was light, a fire. I don't know how to explain it. It wasn't a vision. Nothing. I wish I could tell you that's where I saw it. No, I melted into light.
But to me, my dearest friend, the patients with CM, some have explained to me exactly what...
Of course, that's why I say it's cerebral.
They
If what I
explain me
want
the
to know,
whole
I mean...
process, which I have shortened a lot so as not to take too long. But when
Still
they see
sorry.
the light, they transform into light. The universe is energy. And energy is light. It is photons. It is light. And the moment you contact your supraconsciousness is holistic with the first consciousness. This first consciousness, this first intelligence, this intelligent designer who intervened in the formation of the universe, in the appearance of life 4 billion years ago, life on our planet, is light that is outside of creation because he intervened in creation. And when you are holistic, it means that you are part of, the term holistic derives from a mathematical term called fractal. The fractal was described by Maldenbroth, a mathematician at Yale University in the United States. It is a whole made up of multiple parts, so that each of the parts has all the properties of the whole. The moment you gave this, it was that in this moment of your meditation, your supraconsciousness was totally united with the first light.
Is that it makes me cry.
What is this fire that you saw? I have been told...
I did not see it. I did not see it. That is to say, I
don't know
melted.
how
I do
to
not know
explain
how
it.
to
It
explain
melts.
it.
It is part of this light because you are God. We have God inside. God is this principle of all religions that we Christians call God. Others call him Jehovah, Allah, Brahma, Tao, Akashic record. Call it whatever you want. But you arrived at a moment that in your deep meditation was authentically fractal with the first energy. It merged the first energy. It was first energy. It merged with light. It was pure fire.
Sure, but from here on, notice that you are not going to like this at all. I am almost a detractor of meditation because I say, meditate less and love more. Because everybody meditates, and more self-centered, regressive states It's tremendous. I mean, meditate less and love more. Well, thank you.
Thank you,
I know
Ed.
how to
Sorry
forgive for the time.
Good evening. My name is Jorge. My name is Jorge. I am a person who has pancreatic cancer. Thanks to you and the visualization of the content partners on YouTube, I was given expectations of life. When the doctors told me I would have a week, a month, 2 months, I told the doctor, very well, I am happy. He said, are you sure? I said, sure. I don't remember anything anymore. But when you see it, the first thing that came to my mind is that youth, thanks to your words, have a legacy. I am happy and you have given me strength. There is eternal life. Thank you, Doctor.
I thank you for this comment you have made. Look, I am a surgeon, and I have told you that I move in a scientific method. But I am very aware of the true reality of the human being. And from the quantum point of view, which is our structural reality as human beings, it can be structural reality as human beings. You can define the human being as a coherent quantum complex. All our energies are synchronized. When this quantum coherence is lost, is when disease occurs. Today we know that more than 90% of diseases, including cancer, are of mental origin. I have an epicrisys, that is the report that we make to patients, to every patient who is admitted to the hospital. They are diagnosed, treated, given a treatment, informed with a medical report. Everything is explained. This is called epicrisys. I have patients that in the epicrisys I have put there is no medical justification for their cure. The person who has a great development of their supraconsciousness, there are cases that have the capacity. Notice that a surgeon did this to them. The capacity to reestablish their quantum coherence and cure diseases that we consider incurable. That is to say, this is a reality. What happens today is that even today the ego dominates so much, and science is so impregnated with the Cartesian materialistic scientific method. I tell them that they are inside a closet, enclosed within 4 walls, that they should go outside, that there is a tremendous immensity to see and discover our reality, that we are consciousness and not body. The body is a sheath, a structure, and what conditions the dynamics of our body is how our consciousness works. And our most important consciousness is the supraconsciousness, and we have it hidden by the ego because it rules us. But the person who is able to control the ego and his supraconsciousness stands out, is able to do things, as I have told you, to cure diseases that we consider incurable, to return to quantum coherence. I can assure you that my fundamental purpose and that of Juan Carlos, who works very intensely with me, it is possible to do all this for Juan Carlos also, because our purpose, I assure you, that fundamentally we are looking for these words. This is our greatest reward. That someone can tell us, you have helped me. As I told you before, I wanted to commit suicide and I did not commit suicide with what I read in your videos. This is what gives meaning to all the sacrifices, sorrows, stresses, and problems that you can already imagine, that this is not easy to do and ride.
Hello, doctor. Up here. Hello. Well, first of all, thank you so much. I am so grateful to be able to be here listening to you. It's been a real treat for me to meet you. I'm going to comment on something personal, but it is because I want to ask you a question to see scientifically what the answer might be. Since I was very young, well, since I can remember, and now I think I have been able to confirm it 100% today. I have been able to confirm it 100% today. And now I think I have been able to confirm it 100% today. I have had the facility to connect with my supraconsciousness without having to meditate, without having to do anything. Not only with my supraconsciousness, but with the supraconsciousness of any living being. It can be a person, an animal, or from other dimensions. And I would like, if there is any way, to be able to explain scientifically all this that has happened to me all my life. All this that has been happening to me all my life, which is finally now starting to make a lot of sense. And that was my question. Thank you.
You are a lucky person. You have an ability. I have already told you that there are people who have the ability to perceive extrasensory phenomena. This is because of your evolution. You are a very evolved person. Very evolved person. What Teilhard de Chardin said, from the alpha point to the omega point. You have come a long way. You have the ability to contact easily. That is to say, you control. And you put some well-established limits to your ego. You can contact. And not only will you contact, as you have said very well, with yourself, with your own consciousness, which will feel a sense of peace, of harmony, of joy, of well-being, but you will have a tremendous capacity in intuition, in telepathy, in precognition. That is to say, there are other transcendent manifestations apart from near-death experiences, telepathy, clairvoyance, precognition, mystical experiences, psychokinesis, experience of the dying. I have a lot of experience in this. In the last moments, it is very frequent to have experiences with deceased beings who communicate. That is to say, you have a tremendous facility of contacting your supraconsciousness. You will never do premeditatedly an evil. It will not go to you. You will not be able to do it.
It will not go to you. No.
It is that you will not be able to do it. You won't be able to do it. You will be one of those people who will live helping, giving, but it will never hurt you because your supraconsciousness is very superficial, a very evolved person. You are lucky. I congratulate you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. When I was telling about the rose and the beauty, it's true that I can't help but look around me. To see around me, and it happens to me since I was very little, that I always see the goodness and beauty that there is in everybody. The other girl said that we are light. And we come from the light and we go towards the light.
You are right. Very good. They're going to throw us out, huh?
No, Doctor, good evening. I just wanted to personally thank you because we have gone through a loss recently, and thanks to your videos and your knowledge, you explain everything in a scientific way. We now have the certainty that, well, for example, the communication that I just said with the people who are already gone is possible. And this, well, you always look for a religious explanation. I am Catholic and we approach that kind of thing. But when there was a communication, because we have had it, some people will call me crazy, but I'm not. So when I listened to your videos, I had the certainty, and it has helped me a lot to be able to accept it and see it in a different way. Accept it and see it in another way. And the scientific explanation that you give of all these situations, the truth is that it helps a lot to clarify things beyond the sentimental or religious. And I wanted to thank you for that, because it has given me a lot of certainty to listen to you. Thank you. And well, as it is a question session, I just wanted to ask you a question that has arisen with your explanations that you have given now. Telepathy, from what I've heard, like the mind, is energy. It is possible, and there are studies out there from the United States that have been done. Do you think this is possible?
Totally possible. It is one of the transcendent manifestations of our supraconsciousness. We always go to the same thing. The origin of everything is energy, and energy is electromagnetic waves, and we are a coherent quantum complex. We are like an antenna. We continuously emit electromagnetic waves. You will notice this. And I'm going to give you an example that you will understand right away. You relate to a person, and you can relate in 3 ways. 1, you relate to a person and you feel really good, relaxed. You can hang out with him. You are effectively stable. What does this mean? That the electromagnetic waves emitted by that being and those emitted by you are coherent. The second way is that you go to an indifferent person. You will say, hello, today is a good day, goodbye, 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 and leave. That's incoherent. And watch out for the third type, the toxic relationship. These people steal your energy and tear you apart. That is to say that telepathy is a manifestation of the coherence of the energies that every human being eliminates, because we are a coherent quantum complex which we emit. One of the manifestations of this energy that we emit is, for example, the aura. The aura that can currently be detected with the Kirlian camera. The Russians have studied this phenomenon a lot. In the aura, by the size, color, distribution, we can assess and know people who have experienced the physical and emotional state of a person. That is to say, that this of telepathy comes out with a subject that has nothing to do with the aura. With what I was reading, talking to her, and curiously, I was also thinking about something that had nothing to do with it. It is so frequent, this telepathic communication with people, when there is quantum coherence because of the energetic structure of the universe.
Good evening, Dr. Sans. I tell you that I do not consume your content in social networks. It is the first time I meet you or listen to your theories, and I thank you very much on behalf of the younger generation, and I thank you for your work. Mom, thank you for bringing me You Were Right. So my question is this, Dr. Sans. If you had the extraordinary opportunity to go back to the past with what you know right now, and you could go back to the precise moment where you chose to go to medical school, and you could talk to your old self, to your young self, would tell you everything you know right now, and it would make you change your mind to study another career. Or it would encourage you to continue studying and do the whole course that you know you were going to do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As often as I was born, I would do medicine. And within medicine, I would do surgery. I have suffered a lot with surgery, because it is a surgery that I have done very important, very big. A lot of esophageal cancer, pancreatic cancer are surgeries of many hours, a lot of tension and a lot of suffering. But when one sees a sick person, for example, companions of the hospital who lost him to esophageal cancer 20 years ago, and then the other day eating with him, I see him eating a plate of lentils, I think to myself, how good, how much you isolated it. I would do the same thing again. The satisfaction he gets is what I told you before. The giving fills you up much more than taking. Mother Teresa lacks that. And medicine lends itself very much to giving. You can help a lot. See, the functions I instill in my students is that the doctor has to cure. If he can't cure, palliate, extend life as much as he can with quality, and to console the patient and the family members. And medicine allows us to do a lot. We can help people a lot. It is marvelous. If I could go back, I would do the same. But if I had knowledge, I would have evolved a lot by now. If I had knowledge, I would have already evolved a lot. Maybe I would change some things. Now, fundamentally, I consider myself very fortunate in the sense that I believe I have not made a mistake in what I have chosen. And I'm glad you came here. Not for me, but for you. It will make you think, which is the most important thing. Thinking, to think, to doubt, criticize things and reach self-convincement. Remember that we are doing things with the Generalidad, with the apartment of the Conselleria de Sanidad, with the Colegio de Médicos, structuring and doing things to try to improve. Because it is appalling that the main cause of mortality of our youth is suicide. This is horrifying. Our children's defects are the parents' deficiencies. Obviously, the environment has an influence, but we have to tell me to blame and see to it that this does not happen.